Mark 3, verse 17. And James the son of Zebedee, and John the brother of James, and he surnamed them Boanerges, which is the sons of thunder. James, who was the greater or the elder of the two, like Simon Peter from Bethsaida, but though ended up in Capernaum and a fisherman.
Absolutely.
And his real name would have been Yaakov ben Zavdai. I can understand why Jesus called him sons of thunder, because he wanted to call down fire on the Samaritans, didn't
Yes,
he?
he did.
He was very ambitious. He was the first to be martyred.
First of the apostles to be martyred, wasn't he? In Jerusalem.
He was beheaded by Herod Agrippa roughly 14 years afterwards, so he would have had time going around. He says here, is an example for devotion and passion for evangelism.
And what's quite interesting when you look at James is that he's always paired with John.
Yes.
You don't read about James on his own. John is much better known than James is. James, very likely the eldest, which is why his name's mentioned first.
Yeah.
It does appear that James and John came from quite a prominent family, more well known than Peter and Andrew. And James and John are the two other disciples who feature in the first group, the inner circle. There's a fair bit of information in the Gospels, the Gospel of Matthew and Mark and Luke, and indeed the Gospel of John, which signifies that their dad Zebedee was a man of some importance. Zebedee himself may well have been quite wealthy. The fishing business, which is likely what he ran, which is why the boys were working in it. The other thing to always bear in mind as well is that the family were well enough connected that John was known to the high priest, and that it was John who was able to get Peter into the courtyard when Jesus was arrested. And we read about that in the Gospel of John. And there's also some early church records that record that Zebedee was potentially a Levite himself, and so quite closely linked to the high priest's family.
Yeah.
So whatever the reason was, there was some kind of connection between James and John and their family, the extended family through Zebedee, and the priesthood. There's stuff that you read in Scripture that could only be known if there was somebody eavesdropping in the household.
Right.
And you think to yourself, well, that doesn't surprise me. There's family connections here that are placed in high places. So the selection of these people is not a daft selection.
Because you've got to assume that Jesus, he needed certain people around him specifically. And as you say, to have a direct connection there makes perfect sense. Also, he can't do this without paying people. And he needed benefactors. And the fact that Zebedee linked to being either called the wolf, it means abundance. He was rich. I think Salome, the wife, was also with Mary at the crucifixion.
That's right.
So one of the ladies. You don't go there
No.
unless they
That's
know
right.
you.